Ish. Okay, so welcome back. The team and myself would like to welcome you back to our sessions. What we're going to be looking at is Uke block, or as one of my old instructors used to say, not getting hit. So we'll be developing it from the very basic to a little bit more advanced. Now, I'm going to base it on how I learned to do an Uke from way back in 1969, 1970 to right up to the day. So there'll be things in there very basic, and there'll be some things in there that's going to be a little bit more advanced. And there's going to be things in there that you most probably won't agree with, or you will agree with, or you've never seen before. Now, I try and use training. I'll go and train with other styles of karate. It doesn't mean you have to be indoctrinated by it. It means it's like a chocolate box. You pick out the bits that you particularly want and just throw the rest away. So if some of this information is good for you, brilliant. If not, it's just there as an option. So I hope you enjoy it, and I'll be having Kerry, Sensei, with me today, helping out, and also there's Mr. Sheridan doing all the filming. So welcome back. Okay, so just a little. Let's clear up a little bit of confusion. In Wadō-ryū, we call this Soto Uke and Uke. Very early in the days, I used to train not only Wado Ryu, but I used to go and visit Shotokan clubs, and I always got confused between with Shotokan, they would call this Soto Uke and this Uke, and it always confused me. So I asked one of my Japanese instructors why, and also asked the Shotokans why, and their explanation was pretty common, really. To me, this is going out from my body. So out is Soto. Yeah, and this, to me, is coming in, so Uchi. But that's from my perspective. If you look at from Sensei's direction, yeah, to me this is Soto, but to him, it's going inside. So this is Uchi. And again, if I do this one, which is Uchi to me, to Sensei over here, it's Soto. So I hope this is maybe clarified very basically on the difference between the Wadō-ryū Soto Uke and possibly other styles that call it Uke and vice versa. Okay, so when we're dealing with ukes, it is always best to action the uke this way. So whether it's Soto Uke or Gaiwan Uke, or this way, it's always best to move there on, because you are killing this. If I do it from this side, you are into the danger zone. So doing these examples, we will always be trying to move this way. When you come onto this side, you have to do various other actions to make sure this one's not coming at me. Okay, so when I first started, whether it was very basic karate back then, I'm sure some of you guys out there have been training a long time, can remember training back in the 70s. It was pretty basic, pretty brutal. What we call in Black Country, bish bash bosh. So when we started off doing Soto Uke, it was hard, and you'd end up with bruises. Both me and my partner would end up with lots of bruises. We were young then, didn't really matter so much, and you know what? It cleared up very quickly. As you get older, these injuries don't repair so quick. Yeah? So, this is when Whether that was because of my age and my inexperience, but this is what I only saw, was the hard hitting. In Wadō-ryū, we don't really go through a conditioning that other styles do. We rather use evasion to avoid a collision. So instead of using the bones aligned, we're using the broad side, so we've got the two bones coming up to contact. So Gaiwan, which described the action and the arm in much more detail. And the same with Naiwan. So you've not only got a change in the action and the collision, but you had a change in the names as well to give a better description and a better understanding, a clearer understanding. So the next stage was bringing the arm up and using the wrist. So you actually make contact with the two bones, and use the wrist. We'll come back to the wrist action after, because it's connected to other parts of your body. But basically, this took the touch, and rotate. So that was the next development on Soto Uke. Next stage was to actually try and use your hip, your body turn, and the rotation. So this is how we originally started to practice Soto Uke, with a hard hit. Don't know what Kerry is actually feeling.
So from the Uke's point of view, it's a big collision. It's effective, it moves the arm, but as Sensei mentioned earlier, you're getting hurt, but he's also getting hurt. So although it's an effective technique, it is quite brutal on the arms unless you're used to and have conditioned your arms.
Okay, so when you come up with the two bones, touch, rotate the wrist and the hip, totally different action and reaction.
So from this point of view, there's no hard contact, but you get the effect of the rotation of the wrist and the power generated from the hip, which makes it a much stronger technique. It collapses my centre on the receiving end of the rotational forces.
Gaiwan Uke and Naiwan Uke. So Gaiwan Uke and Naiwan Uke was brought in to have a more definitive description of which part of the arm that you're actually using. So the way that I look at it, if you use from here to here, this is Gaiwan Uke because it's the outside, Gaiwan. Yeah, and then if you use the same point to in here, this is Naiwan, Gaiwan. The next thing that you need to, the next stage that you really need to take in your Gaiwan Uke is to use something called Koshutai, which is you defend and attack at the same time. So when you are dropping your elbow, doing the wrist action, and pulling the hip back, the dropping of the elbow helps the wrist and helps take control of the centre. If you leave the elbow where it is, it doesn't really have the same effect. So you really need to keep your elbow like a rotation, like a propeller. You're dropping this and you're lifting this and rotating. So you bring your elbow in, fist comes out, and you rotate and you hit. Don't know what Sensei Kerry's feeling.
So it's again a very different feeling from Uke's point of view. It's a collapsing action through the centre, almost sort of bordering on kazushi. So very, very different feeling from just a rotation to a collapsing action. Okay. So Koshutai, the defend and attack.
you should be thinking centre line. So this not only is Uke, not getting hit, but also to attack. The other technique that you can help your Gaiwan Uke is the wrist action, not only rotation, but flexing from concave to convex, or convex to concave, whichever way you're looking at it. So you can add this small technique at the same time as very minor, but it does assist. And it doesn't mean that you have to, when you take your fighting stance, using Tatai Sasha, your wrists are slightly bent anyway, facing the opponent, not here, but facing. And this comes from holding katana, or bow, or any other weapon where you have to grab or handle. So this curve here isn't going against the grain with any other basic technique. It's already here because you are still trying to point towards the target. You're still dropping your elbow, still using the rotation, but you're adding just a small amount of concave to convex with your hip. Just very, very small detail. If you've seen some of the previous sessions and videos that we've done, a lot of the time, especially with the Kihons, we describe the arm just like the katana or a sword. So instead of using the blade or the back of the blade, yeah, we use the side and rotate. So you're not ruining the blade, you're not ruining the back. And also you've got obviously the flexible side to the sword, and you've got the hard side to the sword. So try and think about protecting your sword, protecting your arm from damage. Then when you need those parts, you can use them and they've not been hurt, they've not been bruised. So when you're using Soto Uke, when you're sparring, I don't think I've ever seen this answer. I have never seen an Uke like this happening when it's people sparring. So even this tells you how to, where to, when to. When you actually come to do the sparring, it is very adaptive. You have to adapt to any situation. So use your body as well as your arm movement. So it's this coordination of your arm and your body, whether it be defensive or attacking. You always need to use your body movement. Okay, first of all, I'll introduce to Michael, Sensei. So Michael will be helping me on this portion. What I'd like to do is just try and break it down a little bit. So from the Senju Sen, you would be moving to this section. Then it would either be with the Uke, moving the wrist. Yeah, or you would be turning the body to come back. And the same with the head. Yeah, you would be moving from the centre, smaller movement, and turning. The turning then, you would be use the Zuki as well. The Koshutai doesn't have to be with the same hand. You can defend and punch at the same time.